Sometimes kids go crazy on paternity court.
I remember sitting on his lap. He used to race motorcycles, and I'd go to the tracks with him and sit on his bike before every race. He said I was his good luck charm. He told me not to call him anymore because I wasn't his child.
I never knew who my real dad was.
You were always told that it was uncertain.
I've had a father figure throughout the years, and he's watched me grow up and never really knew who my dad was.
Miss Dixon and her mother brought the defendant to court, claiming Mr. Froyo has been denying her paternity since she had been a little girl. The defendant, on the other hand, refused this claim and was pretty positive today's tests would reveal the same.
You say you believe that Mr. Froyo is your father,
Yes,
and he
ma'am.
has denied you since you were a little girl, even though he signed your birth certificate.
Yes, ma'am.
You are seeking results of a paternity test to prove that he is indeed your biological
Yes, Your
father.
Honor.
Next, we got to see the plaintiff pouring her heart out. The woman had been suffering over this paternity doubt, and it's clear as day that this whole situation took a toll on her already deteriorating health. Lord have mercy.
I was diagnosed with cancer. I would like my father to be there. I want to know. I'm 25, I've gone this far. I don't want anything from him. I just want to know. I don't want him to feel sorry for me. He says he's not my dad, but he'll be there for me. I don't need a charity case. You know, if he's not my dad, he's not my dad. But if he is, I'd like him to know, like, I've been through so much.
Although the moment was emotional, that didn't deter the potential baby daddy from speaking his mind. He narrated an incident from the past where he once contacted the mother to take Miss Dixon out for some time, but the mother wasn't having it.
If I could take her out for her birthday and buy her stuff, quote, unquote, over the phone, you're not seeing her.
Oh, no, that is not true. He would not give me a phone number. He wouldn't tell me where he was taking her, how long he was taking her, and I wasn't having that. And there is no Tom Ashley.
Whoa, that's some serious allegation being leveled against Mr. Froyo. I hope that wasn't the case, because otherwise, the defendant was just plain ignorant, still living in the dark ages.
I have an older daughter, I have an older son,
And
and I
you
have a
wanted
younger
a
daughter.
boy.
I don't deny anything.
He wanted a boy. He left me in the hospital right after I gave birth and did not come back to that hospital.
Baby daddy had been rejecting the daughter in this court left and right, but shockingly enough, he had her name tattooed on his arm. What? Why? Now that was $1 million question.
Simple reason is, Your Honor, why does Samantha have Dixon for her last name if I am true her
Because
biological
he-
father and it's not my last name?
He asked me at the hospital, do not put Froyo on there because it would upset his mother. Don't play that. That's why I gave her Dixon.
That's your story.
And I'm sticking to it.
It had been twice now that something that happened 5 years ago had come up again. I guess it was about time we got to hear what came across all those years ago that made him doubt paternity.
5 years ago, my son and myself were in Florida, and this gentleman came in, which was a friend of his. He goes, Samantha has never been your daughter. I go, what do you mean? My son sat next to me. He says, she's mine, and I'll never go to New York State to prove any different.
Well, I'd like to know who he is, really, because he might be a
This
better
is
dad
the
than
problem.
you.
Do you see this?
Next up are the various times and instances where the alleged baby daddy denies Miss Dixon. And by her account, it was a lot to take for a single person. Where the daughter still cherished the time they spent together, the guy didn't even acknowledge her presence now.
I called his phone because I always find his number. I have his number now because I've never let go of the memories when I was 5. I've always wanted that dad back because at one time he loved me.
And you remember that.
And I remember sitting on his lap. He used to race motorcycles, and I'd go to the tracks with him and sit on his bike before every race. He said I was his good luck charm. He told me not to call him anymore because I wasn't his child.
The absence of a father can have a catastrophic and lasting impact, and Miss Dixon was about to narrate how she firsthand dealt with those impacts that changed her for life. She went down the wrong path, and the rest was history.
I lost my virginity and got pregnant with twins. I called Sam when I was pregnant with them twins, and he asked me if they were mixed. And I told him they were, and you know what? He told me he didn't respect the fact that I was pregnant. Well, when my twins died January 17th, I called him, and he told me it was meant to happen. He showed up to the funeral because they were dead. That's the only reason why. He was there for a whole 5-10 minutes and left.
The woman poured her heart out. Everyone felt her emotions. But there was one who didn't feel a thing. The cold-hearted jerk of a father. Not only did he appear indifferent and callous, but he also had the nerve to say this next.
I was diagnosed with stage 3 lymphoma. At that time, I had a 1-year-old son and a 2-week-old son. They gave me 3 months to live. I didn't lay down. I fought. I did 2 years of chemo. I went bald. At 19 years old, I had no hair, no support. Now I'm at 22, I had my daughter. Miracle child they said I couldn't have.
Uh-oh, a witness came to play, and she happened to be Mr. Froyo's daughter. Now, although she was acknowledged by him, still she ended up sharing some shocking information that substantiated the plaintiff's mother's earlier remarks about the guy.
Mr. Froyo, you are her father.
Told you. That was my last
I'm a man of my word, Samantha. I apologize to you, and I'm wrong for being the way I was, but you know what? Now you know the truth.
Miss Allen was in the court to prove to the defendant that he fathered Miss Baylor. And no matter the nonsense Mr. Child's wife filled his head with, the results would be in her favor.
Miss Allen, you say that after a brief affair with Mr. Childs, you discovered you were pregnant with your daughter, Miss Baylor. You say Mr. Childs acknowledged paternity until his wife convinced him otherwise. You intend to prove that Mr. Childs is, in fact, your daughter's father. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Upon inquiring about the reason the plaintiff thought that the father was denying paternity, Mommy had only one name as an answer. And that answer didn't sit well with the couple.
His petty wife. She been
Excuse me,
doing that
Mama.
for years. She wasn't there when we were sleeping together or nothing. So I don't think she have anything to do with it.
So you're basically blaming his wife.
Yes.
She should blame herself, Your Honor.
What?
Why did it take you 20 years to figure out that you should get a DNA test?
Because
for
I
her?
didn't
When
need-
asked
I
you-
didn't need
when I
to go
asked you
through the
from
drama.
beginning,
A football night filled with drinks and messing around resulted in a baby. That kid was now being denied paternity, which was a given, as Miss Allen had certain other plans.
Why aren't you telling the truth? You didn't know who the father was.
Well, you knew that
were
from
telling
day one.
You were telling that.
You knew that from
That's
day
not what
one.
you were saying, though. The
You
rumor
knew
that
that
you put
from day
out there.
one.
Hold on,
the rumor
I'm
that you
going
put
to
out
give
there was
both of you a
child-
chance to respond.
Both these guys had varied narratives of how the news of pregnancy came to be. Baby mama claimed she told right away. But baby daddy didn't agree with that.
Once I found out, I heard she was pregnant. Hey, are you pregnant? You supposed to be pregnant by me? Oh, I don't know. I don't know if it's yours or not. So I'm like, okay, if you're pregnant and it's mine, let's get a DNA test. We can go ahead and get this out of the way. Have no problem with taking care of her because she would have been my first. I don't see her again for months. Probably longer than that, Your Honor.
So, Miss Allen, did you invite any other man?
No.
The story we've all been waiting for. How did the wife of the defendant come to be part of it all? Mommy started the story, but soon after, the reins were taken away by her.
I had to go through the drama with Miss Johnson. Up and down the road, she following me.
How can she remember me chasing her up and down the street, but she can't remember who fathered her child? Why am I living in her head rent free, but she can't remember who fathered her child? Furthermore, Your Honor, he's always been there for my children. So this little song and dance she doing.
The story took an interesting turn. It seemed Miss Allen was not all that truthful. Some key pieces of information were being held out by her. Evidently, that information threatened her claim.
I wasn't even messing with him. This was something that
Why are you testing
came
me?
Why would
about.
you test someone you aren't messing with?
Because
Your
because she was fishing.
He
for-
came out and asked me, and he said, you know, I was messing with your mom around the time I wanted to get a DNA test with you.
Someone reached out to you,
Yes.
Ms. Baylor, and said, I think I may be your father.
Finally, the real sufferer in this situation, Miss Baylor, was given the stage. About time, if I may say so. For years, the girl believed one man to be her father, but I'm afraid that wasn't the case.
I was about 14 when I first found out my sister's dad wasn't my dad. Just hearing rumors, just going over my grandmother's house in Bowling Green. And that's where basically he is from. And everybody would come to me like, you're my cousin, TJ's your dad. I'm like, I don't know who TJ is. Who is TJ?
Little did the plaintiff know that sharing a few stories with the family would lead to shocking revelations. The kind that had the potential to alter the course of her life forever.
I don't know if he meant to, but when he told me, I just started asking questions. I just wanted to know.
And
I wanted
so
to get to the bottom of it.
Yes, she knew. I told her, sit down and told her the whole story.
Yeah, she told me after. She didn't tell me before, but she told me after the fact when my stepdad did say that.
I know,
I'm
honey.
confused too.
The defendant appeared sincere and raised all the right questions. It seemed a lot of precious time was lost in these 2 decades that could have been saved had they resolved these doubts earlier.
If I'm such a bad person, go get child support. When we went to child support, I would have got a DNA test. And this would have been taken care of years ago. I've been going on years, Your Honor, with people saying, oh, you know Shah's your daughter. Oh, you know Shah's your daughter. I don't want people looking at me like, oh, you're a deadbeat dad.
One paternity doubt caused a lot of bad blood in all these relationships. And why wouldn't it? When you mess around without any protective measures and don't keep track of the people, kids like Miss Baylor get destroyed in the process.
I wasn't even the only one he was messing with. He was messing with my cousins and all that stuff. So that's
Again,
why I just went on about my business.
What does that have to do with the child at hand, Your Honor?
Yeah, it doesn't, but at the same
Exactly.
time.
That's what I'm saying. I've been going through, Your Honor. She's not concerned about her. She's concerned about her.
Time for some real evidence. The defendant came prepared. Up until now, it was all just he said, she said battle being commenced. But the paternity court operated on concrete and irrefutable proof.
All my kids look just like, I'm not saying that, that doesn't mean she's not my child. It's just that I feel I have strong genes. So,
So you're saying all of your children,
Yes,
all of
ma'am.
your other children, have been born with a sick finger.
Yes, ma'am, just like myself.
That's a physical characteristic you share with them.
Yes, ma'am.
That about sums it up. The testimonies were heard, the evidence was looked at, and all that was left to go through was the contents of the DNA results. Do I even have to say it this time? Let's get on with it.
Mr. Childs, you are not the father. I'm very sorry, Miss Baylor.
It's okay, Your Honor. At the same time.
It's okay, honey. It's okay.
In a riveting change of pattern, a man brought the defendant to court claiming Miss Sierra was his child, but it was the baby mama who believed otherwise. She further claimed there could be other possibilities.
You filed your case because you claim you've been robbed as a father. You are desperate to prove to the defendant that you fathered her 19-year-old daughter, Sierra Sloan, and once you do, you want to make up for lost time. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
It took 3 words for Miss Grider to colorfully describe her teenage life. Wowza! Don't know whether to be impressed at her candor or just cringe. She knew the motto of young life and followed it to the fullest. And the courtroom had a hearty laugh over this.
Explain to the court why you are so certain.
Because I was 19, I was young, dumb, and full of eggs, and I was doing me.
Young, dumb, and full of eggs and doing me. I don't think I've ever heard it explained like that.
This mommy was persistent that the plaintiff wasn't the father. Given the situation, she obviously had another possibility. But hold on. Wait till you hear how many guys she was actually involved with at that time.
So how many guys were you with during the window of time your daughter was conceived?
4.
4 different guys. And Mr. Wheat is one of them.
Yes.
How is it you were with these guys?
One of them was my boyfriend. He was living with me at the time, and he went away.
Baby mama dropped the pregnancy bomb on all the potential guys. Yeah, kudos to them all. At the time of delivery, however, Miss Grider only had the second potential baby daddy with her. But then why did Mr. Wheat claim he was robbed of the baby? Let's hear him out.
Did she even tell you she was going into labor?
She called me that day and told me, and I told her I'll come up there in a little bit, okay? Well, my family went up there. I called her back, said, hey, I'm on my way. She told me not to bother. So I just...
Oh, now I get where the robbery's coming.
Well, the plaintiff didn't get to see the baby, but his family was there and they saw her. So it wasn't like he wasn't present there at all. He accounted for his presence through his family. Good for him.
When they came back to my house, all of them said, congratulations, you're a dad. All right, well, I didn't believe them. My mom came in and asked me if I wanted to see what my daughter looked like. Well, she handed me a baby picture of me. I was born. And she goes, there you go.
Wow.
All the confusion and the possibilities aside, Miss Sierra was truly the victim, and it showed how much all of this devastated her, and rightly so. If your hearts don't melt for the poor girl, all you people are made of stone, man.
What are you feeling in this moment? Can you tell the court?
Upset that I never knew who my real dad was.
And when you say you never knew,
Never.
you were always told that it was uncertain?
I've had a father figure throughout the years, and he's watched me grow up and never really knew who my dad was.
Oh, okay.
In all this paternity chaos, a wholesome moment ended up taking place. While it was beautiful for one party and they cherished it, the plaintiff ended up being heartbroken over it.
So, Mr. Weed, I see your emotion here. I see your face, because as I talk about all of these memories and naming her and all of this, this is now, it's reinforcing that feeling that you feel like you've missed out.
Yes, Your Honor.
Was someone cutting onions? It didn't happen often here that two potential baby daddies want to end up being the biological father of the child in question, but that was the case here.
How does it feel to hear that, Sierra? That he wants to get to know you and have a relationship with you and be a dad to you?
It feels good, but I'm just trying to figure it out. If he is my dad, well, it's just a lot to deal with. But it would be nice if he was, or if Mac was still. I would like to get to know him better too.
All right, I've got my fingers crossed. Let's hope Miss Sierra ends up with a biological father amongst these two. Both seem great. Now, the only things left to check were the DNA results. So, let's get right to them.
You are not the father.
I still love her no matter what.
We're all still a happy family. It's just hurting her because she loves him, but she thought there could be a possibility.
Of course she did.